Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 149. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. Tonight is Tobago night or Tobago evening according to how you think of your pleasantries. It is Wednesday, the 9th of November. Yes, middle of the week. And since it's the middle of the week, we're talking Tobago issues. Last week in the Tobago issues, I trying to figure out, Richard Glubman says he's trying to figure out why Gary trying so hard for that report not to come out. I don't know why he's specifically trying hard for the report not to come out. Maybe it might have something to do with him trying to clear the way to make it back as Commissioner of Police. I find that whole issue to be a very messy mess. Like, the fact that he is in the political foray makes it harder for anyone to think of him really seriously as the commissioner. And then if you're as commissioner there, are you going to fold up your party, or is your party still going to be functioning? Would your job as commissioner not then be to campaign for yourself as your political hopes? That makes for a complicated mess. I'm not sure how that all works. But I guess Mr. Griffith is still attempting to make it all work. But that's not Tobago. Over in Tobago last week, we were speaking about the post-mortem of the carnival over there, and an issue that I brought up, an issue that, well, not only me, but that was brought up in the public, and I was speaking about this, is the fact that they were out there building stages in the sea. So why it's so hard for the THA, Chris 868 is asking, so why it's so hard for the THA to be transparent about the funds made after TOMAC? Well, I am not sure. I believe they're saying that there are surveys that they have to do and discussions, and they have to collate the data. And I suppose maybe in time we would be getting more of the information coming out of that TOMAC festival. It's just that the data isn't yet prepared for us. So maybe that might be it. I don't know. But yeah, the Tobago House of Assembly went out there and they were just doing things like, they had authoritarian powers to some extent. They were building stages out in, stage out in the sea without environmental clearance to do things like that. And I was thinking, that's just not how you do things. If you're going to do something as serious as attempt to reclaim some of the land from the sea, you'd want to do this in a way that it would last for some time. You don't want just a temporary measure. If you wanted a temporary measure, then you're talking about just hire some scaffolding men, let them get some specialized aluminum scaffold, and they'll build a scaffold out in the sea. A scaffolded stage out in the sea. I am sure that is possible. All the scaffolding experts out there, you all could correct me, but I believe from being in and around scaffolding, building a scaffold out in the sea to make a stage is not a very difficult thing if you just wanted a temporary stage. So if you were aiming at this kind of thing, expensive still, yes, but I would say less expensive than filling up the sea. And if you were going at the route of filling up the sea, doing something really fancy, then you really have to do something fancy. If it's going to be permanent, you're permanently filling up a little bit of your sea there. You're an island aiming at tourism. It's all about the look. It's all about the vibe. Manny says, I think Tobago will be holding National Carnival with Trinidad. Well, Tobago always holds National Carnival with Trinidad. So, yeah, Tobago will be holding it. But that doesn't have anything to do with the stage. Because apparently this stage is already falling apart. Cracks in THA stage in the sea already. Cracks in THA stage in the sea. The newly built stage in the sea along Milford Road in Scarborough and the coast at Rockley Bay has several cracks. Newsday visited to observe the cracks, which appeared closer to the seaward side of the stage, which extends the road into the sea. Contacted about the development, THA Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Trevor James, declined to comment. So, you spend all this money, bypass an environmental clearance, build a whole stage in the sea to waste it for it to last one season, that by next season it's already going to be an eyesore that you're going to now have to pay more money to get rid of. What sense would that have made? And while people were speaking about this, speaking about the reality of how you actually do these things, this same secretary who was in charge of the urban the development infrastructure, etc., that same secretary was saying that, you know, they're trying to do things on a schedule. They don't have time to think about things in that way. And well, you're seeing the problem when you don't take the time to think. What happens? You spent the money, filled up the sea, who knows how much that contract cost, and now it's all for nothing. And as I said, another contract is going to have to be given out to go dig that out of the sea now. That's a whole brand new contract. More money to be spent. Lovely. THA Minority Leader Kelvin Morris said he and his team remained concerned over the project. We have vehemently voiced our concerns regarding the approach to the stage in the sea. As a matter of fact, we believe that it was always badly planned and is a waste of taxpayers' money in the grand scheme of things. Now that Carnival, it was rushed for Carnival, you're seeing that the sea is ready to take back its stage. What you're having right now is the fact that this contract, we don't know how it was given out, who it was given to. We're still waiting to hear the cost of this project. You doubt the reclamation of land would have found itself in Carnival funds? Why would you doubt such a thing? Because that project wasn't a project about reclaiming land. That was a project to build a stage for the Carnival. The reclamation of land was done to build the stage for the Carnival. It was a Carnival project. It would be very interesting, as the minority leader is asking already over there in Tobago, what would be the particulars of a contract like this? Who got paid to do this contract? How much were they paid? What were the particulars about it? And I think that might be very important. Here's a reason that might be very important. Because if a contractor did this, let this at least be going down on the record of the contractor that it was done with shoddy workmanship, or it was done hurriedly, and it would be known widely that this contractor is willing to cut corners while they're doing work. At least let that go down in the name of it. But no, all of this seems to be a mystery over there in Tobago. And I don't know how much longer the Tobago House of Assembly ruling party, the PDP, believe they would be able to continue going like this. They're really running afoul of the whole contract business. It seems to be a regular issue that they're bumping their heads on. And to consider that the leader of the party that they entered the Tobago House of Assembly on, the leader of that party, is now kind of working against them and speaking about these very same contract issues. I don't know how they're planning to manage all of this. The questions are mounting. A contract like this, who got the contract? How much was paid? What were the particulars? They're still silent on it. And it wasn't only that issue with the contractors that drew problems. It wasn't only the contractors issue and the stage falling in that drew the problems there. There were problems even with the actual staging of the events themselves, because I was hearing quite a few local vendors over there were having problems getting things sold. For you and a good lawyer, well, yeah. Good night, Kim Oliver. That information should be public, I think. The thing is, I'm sure somebody probably already sent out a FOIA for it, but it's just a matter of time. Almost all of those things take time. But yeah, it wasn't just that stage that seemed like something short-sighted. When you look now, politicians in this country face no relocation for wasting our money, so they don't care. I suppose they have no consequence for wasting our money. And money, to be fair to Trinidad and Tobago, that's not just a Trinidad and Tobago issue. Greetings, sir. It's not a politicians in this country issue. That's a politician everywhere kind of issue. Politicians hardly ever face consequences for wasting money. That's a problem. I speak about that ad nauseum sometimes. Where if you're a regular person and you get caught stealing, well, you're a thief and you go to jail. If you're a politician and you get caught stealing, well, it's corruption and you might be voted out of office. And then in the next cycle, who knows, you might be voted back in. It's ridiculous, really and truly, but that's the nature of politics. And that's why, as citizens, it's in our best interest to trust people in that endeavor as little as possible. It's not wise to give those people your trust. And for the vendors who may have trusted the THA and believe that this whole thing would have been making a lot of money for them, well, they were mistaken. The thing is, the THA continues to insist that they did make money off of this, that it was a financial success. People may not have understood how the money was made, but it was made. They're still insisting on that. And I remember the number that one of the planners put out there was the amount they spent and the amount of people that came into the country. And I think there could be a way to actually figure this out more concretely, and it may show that they may have indeed made a profit when looking at the amount of money the THA spent versus the amount of money that may have been coming in. All right, so there is information on the amount of flights that went into Tobago from Trinidad. Over 5,000 seats unused for Tobago Carnival, Caribbean airline reveals. Nearly 6,000 seats made available for passengers from October 24th to 31st to accommodate demand for domestic travel for the inaugural Tobago Carnival remained empty. A media release issued by Caribbean Airlines revealed that 20,200 seats were made available to passengers between Trinidad and Tobago, inclusive of additional services on the airbridge to meet customer demand. Over the period, 14,426 passengers traveled between both islands. Caribbean Airlines also operated 5 international non-stop flights from Barbados, Miami, and New York, with a capacity of 686 seats to Tobago. So, if we're looking at these numbers, about 15,000 people, it looked like, went to the Tobago Carnival. That's the full number. And even if you say those 15,000 people spent 2,000 on average per person, that is the number that they were calling there. That reaches up to something like $30 million. So if they spent 17 million, they would have received, judging by the numbers that are already official here, they would have received, let's say it's not impossible for $30 million to have been poured into Tobago. Now, the thing that the planners and organizers point with that is they're saying that money comes into Tobago, so that means that the Tobagonians are gaining from it. I am not sure how much the average Tobagonian gains from that, because yes, that money goes into Tobago, but the majority of that money would be going to hoteliers. The majority of that money would be going to the larger chains of stores, the larger chains of restaurants, the larger chains of businesses. What proportion of that money filters down to the average Tobagonian? And that was the issue we spoke about since last week. So yes, let's say 30 million came into the island over that Tobago Carnival period. How much of that 30 million filtered down to the average Tobagonian? Now, there's an issue with that where it seems like some vendors are hinting that not much of it actually was able to filter down to them, because some vendors have since then, not impossible, where you drawing the line on average? Well, the line on, I'm using $2,000 as the average spend, and I'm using that amount because that's the number that was given from the Tobagonian side. I believe they called a number somewhere higher than that, 3,000 to 5,000 or something like that is the average spend, and they reduced it. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with reducing it. And if I'm thinking to myself, $2,000 it does sound like a fair spend in Tobago. It does. I mean, I'm a Trinidadian, I'm a Trinbagonian. I've been to Tobago. I know generally how the prices go. 2,000 isn't a bad spend. But if you're thinking about that again, as someone familiar with how that goes, if you go to Tobago and spend $2,000, especially if you're going to events like the Tobago Carnival, something like maybe $1,800 of that might be spent on large businesses. Maybe $200 might be spent on a couple Benny Ball and Benny Stick and red mango or something to carry back for your mother. But the majority of that is spent in large businesses. And okay, some of these large businesses do employ people, yes, but that's their salary that they may continue to get, but the vast majority of the influx of money does it stay on the island. And as I was saying, some vendors are complaining and saying that the money doesn't seem to have flown flowed in their direction.
Light was set up from until 7. And although the light was set up, the person who set up the light said they could not touch the S generator because they don't know who it belongs to. Things that I had prepared, I had to get them to bring back home stuff. I had to.
That was just one vendor. Vendors along the Claude Noel Highway near Shore Park were also affected by the route changes and are calling for the necessary refunds. Vendors were established at the top of.
And that's a strange thing in all of this. The vendors lost their money, and now the THA is promising that they're going to pay them back for it. I get the KP says, I get the feeling the carnival was event based, like on behalf of these rich socialites. Yeah, it could seem so. And when it's event based, you know where that money goes. So these vendors are complaining, listen, you all promised us something. They would have spent money to buy their goods wholesale. They would have spent money to set up their tents. That's what the lady is talking about there. She set up a tent, everything. And then what do you know? They changed the route. The patrons don't even pass by you. That happened in numerous places around Tobago. Many of the vendors are saying we didn't make any money. I know some vendors personally. I know some vendors who went to Tobago and they were saying they did not make any money. It wasn't a money making bonanza for the regular small vendor in Tobago. That wasn't how it went. So in this case, the 30 million that you may say that you may have made, that didn't filter down to the regular Tobagonian. That didn't benefit the regular Tobagonian. So is that really a legitimate boast? Is it a sensible boast to boast that, okay, we spent $17.5 million just so that we could make money for the wealthiest people in Tobago? And bear in mind that some of those very wealthy people that the money would have been going to in majority wouldn't even be Tobagonians. Now, I find that to be interesting, juxtaposed with a comment here, Boris, creatives must market Tobago. The THA Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation, Tasha Boris, says the THA is looking to use its artists to create content to market Tobago in the future. At the post-executive council media briefing on Thursday, Boris said the recent October Carnival highlighted the talents of the island's creatives. Now, I find this kind of insulting, because many of the island's creatives over there in Tobago were commenting that no, this Tobago festival, this Tobago Carnival is not actually highlighting anything to do with us. Everybody in Tobago wealthy? Oh gosh. I don't think they would agree with that, KP. I don't think they would agree with that at all. But yeah, I find it's kind of insulting to have had a festival like the one that went there and then say that, it highlighted the local artists. Strange. she said the policy shift now for us is to spend that. All right, let's go back there. When you see how our creatives have come to the fore, this is the Secretary of Tourism, Culture, and Antiquities speaking here. When you see how our creatives have come to the fore, it means that we have been doing ourselves a disservice in the tourism sector from a government standpoint, because we have been expending tons of money to foreign companies to create content to market Tobago, when we have our own homegrown creatives who can more than get the job done. I find that this whole thing is very ironic, especially considering the festival that just went by there and the majority of the accusations that are being leveled about the nature of such a festival. But they're saying that's their new focus now, not to spend money on the foreigners when we have locals who could do the very same thing. All right. I don't think the last festival had a showing like that. That it was more about the local talent and the local talent displaying themselves. I don't think that's how that festival was sold, and I don't think that's how it was bought. However, the chief secretary is now the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly is now in London in the United Kingdom. He's over there, and he's there in a kind of what you call those things, not a festival, a convention of sorts, and he's trying to figure out ways to better market Tobago and bring back new deals to Tobago. And let's see the direction that he is heading in and some of the things that have gained his eye over there. Chief Secretary eyes sports as Tobago tourism game changer. Interesting. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine is eyeing sport as a tool to make Tobago a major player in the tourism market. Augustine was speaking on Monday at the opening of the World Travel Market, Excel London, where he is leading a local delegation. Also on the trip, several other people. In an interview with Tobago Updates, Augustine said there are hundreds of booths at the market, which ends on Wednesday. He said the delegation is involved in about 20 meetings a day. Augustine said he had met with Sport 5, an Israeli sport television company owned by RGE Group. Sport 5 broadcasts all English Premier League games, NBA games, a variety of sports to over 1.6 billion people in Europe. We just discussed a short while ago putting Tobago ads while you're watching your favorite football team. Interesting. Okay, marketing strategies, that might be interesting. And the thing is, to be fair, Tobago's main market is Europe. Well, at least it has been historically. Many Europeans seem to enjoy Tobago. It's a favorite of many of the Europeans. He quipped, though, and I find this revealing, he quipped, that must be Arsenal, right? Not Man United. Now, if the chief secretary, this is serious business, if the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly is an Arsenal fan, that is telling. That is telling. That means he's a man capable of taking a lot of abuse. That's for one. He doesn't need to win either. Which I'm not sure is a positive trait to have in a leader who doesn't need to win. I mean, if you're supporting Arsenal, winning hasn't really been on your mind for a very long time. So it's revealing. It is revealing. The head of the Tobago House of Assembly is an Arsenal fan. Augustine said he also had a meeting with Peacock TV channel to pitch Tobago as a premier golfing location. This company has a listing of A-list golfers, retired A-list golfers as well. They are interested in making Tobago one of their destinations where golfers from all around the world, we're talking about the Tiger Woods of the world, would want to come and play. There were also discussions with one of the top travel agencies in England. So he is giving a little breakdown there of the amounts of discussions that they're having. No doubt Tobago can't sign on to everything, a lot of this comes at a cost. We can't sign on to every deal that comes our way. He said it is time for Tobago to get active and stop talking. Over the next couple of days, we'll be meeting with players in the tourism industry, negotiating, trying to make deals for Tobago, trying to get some investments, hotels trying to get more visitors, get the uptick going, trying to get airlines from around the world, trying to get airlines from areas around the world market Tobago. Much of the most part has been undiscovered, untouched, unspoiled. So I guess they're saying the main part right now is trying to get Tobago out there, trying to market Tobago to the right people. That might work. That might work. If the case is that Tobago is somewhere that many people might like to be, but they just don't know it really exists, then marketing is the problem. And I would be interested to see how Tobago would be marketed. What exactly would be the marketing strategy that they go with there? Would they go along with the more Carnival party lines? Would they go along with the more sun, sea, and sand lines? That will be curious. I don't know. I'd have to see their ads when they come out. Now, I heard someone last night, someone brought up this topic about some money being spent on the Tobago, the resident of the Tobago residence of the Prime Minister, and there were allegations that there was some overspending that went on over there. UNC questions cost of PM's residence in Tobago. Oropouche East MP Dr. Rudal Munilal is calling for an independent investigation into the cost of construction of the Prime Minister's Tobago residence. He said the cost, as stated in documents received from UDCOT, had gone from an initial budget of $25 million to $63 million. And he wants to know why. What is the possible reason for that kind of cost overrun? And someone asked that last night in the live, and I didn't know. I didn't see a response. I wasn't aware of this. That's not news that I knew at that point in time. However, right now there's a response from the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister recently came out with a response saying that the opposition is lying, basically. Rowley dismisses 38 million overrun claim. Prime Minister's official residence in Tobago. Prime Minister Keith Rowley yesterday dismissed the claim by the opposition that there was a 38 million cost overrun. Speaking at a news conference on Sunday, Munilal, we knew what he said in an interview with Express yesterday. The Prime Minister, however, said he had no idea where Munilal plucked these figures from. He said he asked UDCOT to provide him with details of the cost of the construction of the official residence, which had been left to rot during the UNC's tenure of office and had been uninhabitable but when the PNM assumed office in 2015. The price did not increase by that much. The price increase was just 8.1 million according to the Prime Minister, for those interested in such things. And it is said that the variation in the price increase was for security upgrades. So $8.1 million on top of the previous number of 22 million. And the 8.1 million was adjusted further to 8.6 million. And that was the final figure there, just added on to the previous money. Brother, good night. I do commend your diction. Thank you, Osei Tavernier. Appreciated. So, yeah, allegations like that, I think those are things that are just very hard to pin down. I wouldn't be surprised if in the end you hear that when all information is revealed that it did indeed have a cost overrun and the Prime Minister didn't actually supply us with the perfectly correct information. Now, while at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if the opposition really did just pull those numbers out of thin air, where the increase, the overall price that the building came up to costing in the end was the price they said was increased on top of the old price, which I don't know. There's no way to really know that for sure. It's a he said, she said thing. And I guess it's according to which one you trust. 8 million is still a lot of money to be spent. Of course it is. When you listen to the kind of money that is spent in governance, it kind of makes it could make your ears ring. It could make your ears ring when you hear them talking about figures, and you're out there trying to squeeze a 500 there and a 1,500 here, and the numbers you're talking, when you're talking $10,000, 20,000, you're going into really high numbers. You're talking about maneuvering that kind of money around, and then I mean, if you're going in to buy a vehicle, you might go up a bit more, but then they're talking about, yes, and then we spent 2 million on this, and there was a budget, an overrun in the budget by $2 million, and then it went up by 5 million, and another by 10, and you're like, wait, what? That's just millions they're calling there. Good night, Wendy. They make it look like monopoly money they're talking about. Yes, they do make it look like that, but that's when it's OPP. When it's other people's property, when it's other people's money, it's really easy to spend other people's money. Listen, if I was spending other people's money, I wouldn't have to worry about anything. Well, by all means, you just spend. Why worry? But that's the thing. That's the problem with governance on a whole. Governments, they're spending other people's money. So the need for them to be very serious about how they spend it isn't there. They don't have that kind of impetus that you would have if it was your own money. The way that was supposed to be pushed onto them, the pressure they were supposed to get from that, is supposed to be from the population insisting that you better spend our money good, or else we'll put you out of power or something like that. But then there are just political moves you could make inside of that kills the amount of power that the people have anyway. So back to square one, spending other people's money without consequence. And that's how you end up with a stage in the sea. Good night, Solomon Dyer, W. Dyer. Now, how many of you think if that was a private thing, if the secretary for the infrastructure over in Tobago, or if the chief secretary over in Tobago, if they owned a piece of beachfront property, do you think they would have just taken out a loan and spent how much ever, let's say 3 million, 4 million, on filling up the sea in front of them for one night, and then allowing it to just crumble back into the sea for the next year? Do you think that would have ever been a sensible investment if that Secretary of Infrastructure or the Chief Secretary had their own beachfront property? Do you think they would have built something like that? Obviously not. They would not have. So it's not an issue really of people having enough knowledge or having the capability to do things like that. I just think many of those people don't care. When it reaches to other people's money, when it reaches to the country's money, it doesn't matter like that. All right. Any further comments or questions? It's Tobago evening. Anything else to say before we dive out on this midweek Wednesday? I went to Maruga, them potholes just as deep as the whole PNM and UNC dig in the treasury. Hi. Oh gosh. Well, the PNM is really good at making little companies all about for the country. So I hear there's another company made that is going to be going out there to pave secondary roads. Hopefully they would be doing that job very soon, and we'll be seeing that difference, because I could tell you the roads are horrible. The roads are horrible. We should add another syllable inside there. Good night, John Robbie. Yeah, the roads all around the place, the roads are horrible. And the bad roads lead to more traffic, because you can't go through the some other roads, because some roads are basically impassable by now. So now everyone has to go through some of the more main roads, and then the main roads are bad, so everyone has to crawl through the road. Yeah, the roads are just not in a good state. I wonder if you could put a number on the inefficiency that costs a country. Like, if someone is on the road for a longer time period, it's costing them more money. If you could get a number on that on a countrywide basis, I wonder what is the number you're going to get for that. What is the inefficiency costs we get from that horrible road situation we have? Caio says we need to get away from PNM and UNC, but who are our options? I think the idea that we need to get away from PNM and UNC is part of the same idea that makes us fall into trouble with PNM and UNC. It kind of gives it gives the hope that maybe there would be some politician we could vote for that is going to be the savior, that someone politician is going to come in here and save the country. I don't subscribe to that belief. I don't have the belief that, if we change to another party, they're going to do so much substantially better than the PNM and or UNC. No, I don't actually have that belief. I actually believe that some of those guys that are out there waiting in the wings, they will actually do worse. Massimo asks, what is the topic for today? The topic for today was Tobago. It's Wednesday. We were talking about Tobago. But we're kind of finished with Tobago. Are there international consequences when we don't conduct environmental safety checks? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's very few things have international consequences really in it. Countries don't particularly have an overarching security system waiting to punish them like that. That's not generally how it works. But yeah, I actually believe some of those guys out there waiting in the wings, anxious for their chance to, really rule this country and show us how it's done, I think some of them would do worse. I believe that. Some of them might be worse. And I don't have that kind of hope that somewhere out there that there's a hero waiting to save us. No. I don't subscribe to that. Not any politician. And the idea on environmental consequences, court and probably a fine way to see. Yeah, that's if the EMA wishes to prosecute. That's according to the amount of teeth that the EMA even have in the first place. But yeah, I think when you have too much of the hope in the politicians, so then what do? Okay, I'm getting to that. When you have too much of the hope in the politicians, it makes you think that you can't do anything otherwise. It makes you think that it's difficult for you to do anything outside of politics. What I must do is get involved in politics to do something there. No, not really. There are entire aspects of society that exist outside of politics. There are ways you could help your society that are separate totally from politics. And I think what might be necessary in a country like ours is to be able to focus more on things like that. I think we have had for too long a time too much dependence on our politicians, on our state and our government. And what we need more now is the ability to interact with each other and figure out solutions that doesn't necessarily have to involve the politicians. Bypass them as much as need be. What is the definition of politics? What you doing here with such commendable diction? Well, yes, I am talking about the colloquial definition of politics. Politics just means the affairs of the people. That's all politics means, and I understand that. But I'm talking here about structured, formal, institutionalized politics, as in the politics of a country, as in the electoral system. That's the thing I'm talking about. Parties and politics. But that's exactly my point. There are varied aspects of politics. The idea that we have in the Western world here about the separation of church and state. That idea isn't only about, making sure that them church people, the priests and the pope, etc., don't get too involved in the running of the state's affairs. It also works vice versa, that the state should understand there are limitations of the state where the state doesn't have a position to go any further. So I'm a teacher. Hopefully, by educating people as much as I can, as best as I can, trying to do it as efficiently as I can, reach to as many people as possible, then I would hopefully make a difference in that. So I have some scholarship classes that I do that are free of charge. I don't need a politician to subsidize that course for me. I could, as I make more resources, teaching lessons on one side, use some of that resources to benefit and help someone else on the other side. And if that is enough to make a change, grand. Might that not be a bigger, more important change than attempting to vote for someone else to go and have control of the country's money? Right, but we the average people have to dictate the legislative agenda. I agree. I also agree. I also believe that by not falling prey to that everything is politics and leaning too much into the political side, it would be easier for us to dictate the legislative agenda. We just have to move away from the Indian and African politics. Again, it's the same thing. The reason the Indian and African politics work so well in Trinidad and Tobago is because we believe that the political system must be so intertwined in our life that the political party I vote for is an intrinsic part of my identity that is wrapped up in the who I am. But if we could live the who I am much larger than anything to do with politics, that's just a decision that we make on a practical basis, then it becomes much easier to reason with people. They don't see this politics as when I'm trying to tell you don't vote for this person, I'm trying to take away a bit of your identity. No, we are just reasoning here based on what would be better logically for the country. We need to pull back a bit from being so intertwined with our identity inside of the parties and politics. The man we vote for should be able to do it for us capably. I'm not educated as they say I should be. I'm not sure I understand fully what you said there. And if you're talking about things that I would like in politics and things that I would push for whenever given the chance to do so, I am for the political power being much more, I always say this isn't something new that I'm saying, being much more dispersed, closer down to the everyday man. I would like, you see what they're trying to do with local government elections. Here, the thing is, I don't trust these people. But by and large, what they're saying they're trying to do with local government elections is a positive for me, where the idea is you give the local government much more power. You give them the control of much more of our resources. I would much prefer that the decision making around me is handled by someone that is much more accessible to me. They're right there. Versus someone quite in Port of Spain in the cabinet there that doesn't really have an intimate knowledge of what is occurring around me. But they are like the only people doing what? What do you think about 108 legal FUL that involved in crime? All right, John Robbie, I did a YouTube video about that. My YouTube video about that is going to drop in the morning. So if you follow me over on YouTube, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, that video is going to be dropped. Just a note on that. Listen to the language used in it. I found the language very interesting. The Express called it for 108 firearms used in crimes. But they paraphrased what the Minister of National Security said. The quote, according to The Guardian, the quote of what he said was 108 legal firearms used in situations, used in very serious situations that have been gaining the attention of the police. Now, situations gaining the attention of the police is not the same thing as crime. So those 108 legal firearms could have been used. If you use a firearm and you shoot someone in self-defense, that would also gain the attention of the police. If someone comes onto your property and you fire 2 shots in their direction and it doesn't even hit them, they flee, that would also gain the attention of the police. So I am curious to know if that 108 is 108 actual crimes, or is it 108 serious situations where some might be actual self-defense and use as it should be used. Is it 108 illegal uses of a firearm? That's the question. And if it is that they're using a bit of obfuscation here, they're using language to play a kind of role to make it seem like the legal firearms are more dangerous than they are, then I am even more curious to why would you want to do that? Why are you trying to make it seem like legal firearms are so much more dangerous when you don't have evidence of it? So what would be the purpose of that? I mean, if you did have evidence of it, then it makes sense. You'd be raising an alarm about this because it warrants the alarm. But if you really don't have the evidence, then Why are you raising such an alarm about it? And if you don't have the evidence, why would you attempt to make it seem like you did have the evidence? Like, it seems like you're working underhandedly against allowing the citizenry more access to legal firearms. I would like to know why. Like, what would be the reason? They don't seem to, at least up until now, they don't seem to have a clear logic, fact-based reason behind it. Yeah, any further comments or questions? Is that it? Is that it? Are we finished for the evening? As usual, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can head over to my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer, over there on YouTube, and subscribe over there. We have new videos dropping relatively regularly. I did a nice breakdown of the whole Kanye, Kyrie anti-Semitism business. We got a bit in depth there. If you're trying to figure out, what is this whole thing about? I mean, I still didn't cover everything because everything is nearly impossible to cover, but it was a nice breakdown. If you're interested in that, that's crazy how they use politics in our islands, boy, bro. They use politics like that everywhere. The United States just today came out of their midterm elections, and they aren't much better than us. I consider US politics to be kind of worse than ours, to be very honest. The politics itself. So it's the nature of that animal, isn't it? But yeah, you can head over to my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer, over there, and be sure to subscribe. Good stuff. Nathan, did you do your mindful education ad? Yes, I do have a mindful education ad. I have an entire video that is a mindful education ad, a breakdown of what it is. Are you talking specifically about like a picture ad? If it is that, or if you're talking about dropping it in this live, then no, I didn't. Thank you for that. Yes. We are also sponsored every evening of this live. We are sponsored by Mindful Education, Mindful with 2 L's _education. If you're looking for us over there on Instagram, our page, you could head over there and follow us, and you would be able to get the information on how to contact us. What we do offer is learning pods, pod learning, where we have a homeschool style. The aim is not to create a classroom environment. The aim is to create that homeschool style environment with small groups, around 6 students per group, and they are able to be more comfortable with each other, to be more comfortable with their tutors and their teachers, and hopefully learn much more quickly and with much more of an appreciation to learning and knowledge. So if that sounds like something you or someone you know might be interested in, be sure to head over to Instagram and follow us, or contact me, and I will point you in the right direction for registration. Our classes, we're starting from ages as young as preschool. From preschool ages, potty trained, ease us up, preschool ages straight up to CXC. They have already begun, but registration continues while classes have already begun also. So if you are interested, be sure to hit us up. You remember a couple of weeks ago I told about the Haitian politicians are supporting the gangs there. You see how many names got called and banned as well from Canada and the USA. Well, yeah, the gangs been doing the most in Haiti for a while now. And yes, the politician, but that was widely known from a long time. The politicians were playing both sides and those gangs, playing with those gangs. That's some allegations of what happens in Trinidad and Tobago. Those allegations are kind of nearly anywhere where you have enough violent people. You tend to have some politicians who think that, they could flirt with it and somehow control those violent people. It hardly ever works out for them. Yeah. Anything further? Or is that it for tonight? That seems to be it for tonight. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you in the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow evening around 9:15. I know you're not talking about that now, and I don't want to take you away from your topic. Yeah, but we'll talk about that. We'll be here tomorrow evening again. Be sure to tune in, and I will see you guys then. Till then, peace out. Laters. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your evening. Laters.